Hey everybody, welcome back to the book report. I am Teri Lucas. Normally there are two of us here. It's usually me with Debbie Brown. Debbie's not been feeling well the last couple of months, and I have been wanting to come and see you and decided to take this on my own. So welcome back. Today's session, today's book report is not about quilting books, although it is about, well, okay, so hold on just a second here. You know, one of the things that quilting is about relationship, right? One of the things that I talk a lot about is about color relationships and how, like, if you're looking at a color wheel, you are whatever color that you want to be. So like I'm purple, and across the color wheel, that's your neighbor across the street. And she adds a lot of life to the party. And then if you're looking at, you know, you invite her neighbors too, right? And that's a split compliment. Uh, that is a split compliment. And but they actually bring a lot of vibrancy to the party because they come together and they love to chat and they love to talk and they're incredibly supportive and they play off one another in the way that Debbie and I generally play off one another. And it's, you know, it's really fun and all this stuff. Well, a couple of months ago, publisher reached out, thanks to Tracy Mooney. Publisher reached out and asked Debbie and I to do the book report on a series of books. And in part, I've been waiting on Debbie. Debbie's not been feeling well. I'm doing this on my own today, which actually gives me not so much a lot of freedom, but a different way of presenting this today. And so I am gonna, what I will do is, in one of these spaces, I will actually show you the book covers, and I am gonna hold them up a little bit. And I'm gonna show you the book covers. I'm gonna tell you why I love them and what we can actually do. Books were published in 2020, 2021, and 2022. And they're really fascinating. So here they are. The first book is The Friendship Flow by Shari Leid. I'm not sure which it is, so if I'm butchering your name, Shari, I apologize. So it's called the 50/50 Friendship Flow. And what I found really profound about this is she actually took the time, she chose a series of friends where she chose just like her friends. She contacted them, she set up a date with them wherever it was. Sometimes it was in a restaurant, sometimes in a coffee shop, in a park, anywhere that the two of them could sit down and talk with one another and share the dynamic impact that the other person has had in their life. And wow. So first of all, to sit down with somebody and let them know what they mean to you and what you've learned from them is wild, right? How often do we take that time? And if you know me as a teacher at all, if you've had me in teaching you free motion machine quilting, if you've had me teaching you a little bit about color, you've heard me support you and talk to you about how you talk about yourself and all this kind of stuff. So Shari actually got this really amazing feedback from her friends, including from her friend Mary in chapter 31 in the book, and they talked about aligning your virtual life and your real life. So essentially, that's living authentically. And they sat down on a series of dates and talked about these things and how they knew each other. So there's a little bit about how she knows this person, what Shari appreciates about them, and how what the dynamic impact is. And so a little bit about Mary. Mary and I attended the same high school together, although we were in different grades and we ran in different social circles. We certainly knew each other because it was a small high school. I went to two small high schools. During recent years, many of us from that high school have become social media friends. It is through this medium that I got to know who Mary is. Her social media posts stood out to me. I have appreciated the honesty that Mary brings to her own self reflection. She shares her observations of herself with such refreshing candor. She gets frustrated with herself, she laughs at herself, and she celebrates herself. She does not pretend to be someone she is not. Her social media life aligns with her real life. There is no grandstanding. Often her posts are about regular day to day situations that come up for all of us, which she shares in a way that makes me pause and smile. Whenever I consider Mary's social media posts and then see her in person, I am clearly reminded of the attractiveness of being authentic. The fact that she aligns her virtual life with her real life is so important, given the huge role social media plays in our daily lives. Mary reminds me that if I truly wish to live an authentic life, my social media life ought to reflect my real life. And then Shari goes on to the 50-50 friendship flow challenge lesson. Authenticity means being your most beautiful self. Your authentic self is your only self. The 50-50 friendship flow challenge to take action, live authentically, align your virtual life with your real life. Now, I kind of find it fascinating that this is I opened to a random spot and read. And what I find fascinating about this is actually something that it is a real thing. Like, I am kind of who I am. If you see me on doing a social media post, that is exactly who I am. Um, and one of the things that I thought about as I was reading this book, kind of flipping through and looking at the different chapters and that kind of thing, is who would I want to interview, or who would I want to have this conversation with, and why? Now, the first person that I'm going to share with you this afternoon is Penny Krause. And she and I, like, we've known each other for a few years and really just had a big conversation the other day that I was intending to be an interview to talk about something that's going on in Penny's life, and ended up being this really delightful business conversation, unexpected, delightful business conversation. And I'm only sharing this with you because it was A, unexpected, B, uh, it actually gave me, and kind of leads to this being authentic and putting out content, and making sure that in my business practices, which have been lacking the last couple of years, no doubt, in my business practices, that I am being as real and authentic there as I am here. And whatever's going on, like, it's okay to take a break, it's okay to back up, it's okay to step back and take a look at what's going on. And it's also okay to do dorky things and celebrate your own life, and admit when you're not doing very well, and that you're disappointed in things, but continue to move forward, continue to make plans, continue to grow. It was absolutely amazing. Who else would I love to have this conversation with? Debbie. Like, if 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 Debbie and I had been able to do this together, I I would have taken the time to let her know how I have very much appreciated her interaction in my own life for a lot of reasons, Um, in part because sometimes and just so you know, I do tell her rather regularly how much I appreciate her, but sometimes hearing it, sometimes we need to hear things a little bit differently. Now, there's tons of stories, tons of stories in this book, tons of them. And they're all worth reading, in part because we get a little insight into the different people who have affected Shari, but it also gives us an opportunity to take a look at how the people in our life affect us and how we affect them too, in a positive way. And so, it's a dynamic thing to sit down with somebody and let them know that you appreciate them. The second book is called Make Your Mess Your Message: More Life Lessons from and for My Girlfriends. One of the other people that I would love to have a conversation with, well, there's I would love to take these conversations to the streets. Locally, I have a couple of friends that in just a very short period of time, I have become very intimate with. And so I would love to sit down with Paula, although she actually, she knows. Angie, again, she knows. To some degree or another, they both know. But so in the second book, in Make Your Message, there is it's more life lessons, but it's life lessons in things that can actually be life-changing for us in some way. It's not just letting them know how much you appreciate them, but what can you learn from them in a different way. So the chapter that I opened up to in here is chapter 21, and it's Linda's story. And I really like this in part because I don't know about you, but I have a list of shoulds that lives in the back of my brain that I can't quite get to that point where I tick that box, check that box off. And Linda shares how she has learned to let go of her to-do list. Life's so busy that you forget to carve. And here's the mess. I'm going to go right to the heart of this. The mess. A life so busy you forget to carve out time to take care of yourself. Now, interestingly enough, prior to today's recording, I was listening to Jenny Grover on Instagram, and she had a guest on today, and they were talking. This is part of what they were talking about. We as quilters we have two hobbies actually, and they interact, but they often run parallel. We are collectors, and I think human beings as general, we collect things. So we're collectors, and then we're makers. And it, for me, part of my stash, the fabric that I have, it's inspiring. I don't necessarily need to ever do anything with it. It is inspiring to me. I can be inspired by the paint palette that I have from 5 or 6 years ago that I am pretty sure I bought at a quilt shop in Connecticut one day when I was driving around with my husband. There is hand-dyed fabric in there that I just had to have it. I don't know that I will ever do anything with it, but I needed it because, whatever. Because it made my heart sing. And then right over there, my favorite designer, Marsha Jersey. So she's somebody I would love to sit down and just talk to. Anyway, back to the book. Then she says the message: take time for yourself. And remember to tell yourself, whenever you are tempted to burn the candle at both ends, I will get it done tomorrow. And that's important to know, because sometimes we're so insistent on getting things done today that we don't do them well today and actually have to bring them into tomorrow anyway. So let's just dive things over into tomorrow. Action step. And I love this. So there's the mess, here's the message, and then here's some way that you can actually take action. When you look at your to-do list this morning, take at least one thing off the list and save it for another day. So if there's something like laundry, if today is not the day to do laundry, kick it down the street a little bit. put it a little bit later in the week or the weekend, or enlist the help of the people that you live with, because that can actually help too. Um, and so one of the other stories is finding my voice. And this is something that I think a lot of us struggle with. And the friend here is Carolyn. Love that name for some reason. And so they spent some time sharing, and the mess, feeling pressure to have a child and tying it, not trying it, tying it to your self-worth as a woman because of others' expectations. The message. Through the process of figuring out what is right for me, I can find my voice, which means I can help and support others so they can speak up and find their own voice. Action step. Think about that age when you began to find your voice. If you don't feel you're there yet, what is one step that you can take today that will help you work towards that goal? And that to me is actually really important, in part because over the last several months, I have actually been thinking about these things. I have necessarily in my own life stepped back from some things, and I am struggling a little bit to get back to what I think my quilting life needs to look like, what my quilting business needs to look like. And if the last few years have taught me anything personally, it is to actually be present to what's going on in my life so that I don't miss out on the important relationships in my life. Okay, yeah, it's sort of, there are things going on in the background that just don't need to be public. Nothing terrible. Let me just clarify that. Nothing terrible. That I have needed to be attentive to here at home. And one of the things that has permitted me to do is affirming a couple of things about myself. Number one, I am still not a fabulous cook. It will forever be a struggle for me for a variety of reasons, but I am still not a fabulous cook. And then it has also affirmed for me that one of the places in my life, which is going to feel a little odd in some ways, that I feel and experience the most freedom is with my husband. I know, sounds a little odd. It's a long story. One, perhaps that may never be fully told because there's a lot of details between the two of us. And it is in getting to know him and what our relationship is where I have found the most freedom. Weird, right? In part because it is with him that I found quilting, and it is in pursuing quilting that I began stitching with reckless abandon and ended up writing a book and doing all these really amazing things. Really amazing things. The last book is called Ask Yourself This. It is a 60-day journal challenge, and it's ultimate life lessons from and for my girlfriends. And I kind of like that because our goal, what are those things that we're learning? Quilting is relational, color is relational. How we do things is relational. So of course we're going to learn things from people. Sometimes the things that we learn from people are that maybe they can't be in our life for some reason, and that is legitimate. Or maybe sometimes what we learn from people is just small, tiny lessons that make a big and dynamic impact. And so the presentation on this is slightly different. She talks a little bit about, again, chapters, lots and lots of chapters. And I love that because you can take little bites of this. So in this book, there's going to be about 60. And in chapter 26, the title is, What Life Event Has Led You to Believe That Most People Are Good? not for nothing, I've probably had several of those. This is making me giggle, and I'll explain in a second. On her headstone, she would like, what you do today affects all your tomorrows, which is true. Not for nothing. After my mother-in-law passed away, my husband and I purchased our niche for where our remains will live after we're long gone. So there's the chapter, and then there's a journal page. So there's no big life lesson in here. You write the date, and then there's a journal prompt. And on that day, it is, what life event has led you to believe? So it is the chapter title, what life event has led you to believe that most people are good? And, taking time to give that some consideration is actually a really fascinating thing. Each journal page is, maybe about 15 to 20 lines, not a lot of work. You can actually take it to your own journal if you're a journal keeper, or you can actually use this in a book discussion, like have this as your book group where you discuss several chapters over the course of any number of weeks. I know, like wine and cheese or chocolate, I am game there. So if you're thinking about anything for Mother's Day, I would say the book series would be fabulous. So it is the 50/50 Friendship Flow Life Lessons from and for my girlfriends. Make your mess your message, more life lessons from and for my girlfriends. And then ask yourself this, ultimate life lessons from and for my girlfriends. So that would actually be a really fabulous trilogy of books to get that you can do over, a period of time. I will, in the show notes, and I will put a link to Amazon or wherever to get the book, Amazon, whatever companies. And I will also then put a link to my own book, Color, Thread, and Free Motion Quilting, because it would be a Mother's Day gift if you have a good quilter in your life. It would actually be fabulous. Why? Because if they're a quilter, Color, Thread, and Free Motion Quilting talks about color and thread and needles and tension and all those things that allow us to quilt with reckless abandon. How's that for incorporating my entire title? But I really do seriously recommend these books. Seriously, great Mother's Day gift, great birthday gift, great Christmas gift this year, great as your anniversary gift. But it's a series of books that you can just kind of read slowly, read a couple of chapters at any given time, and just enjoy the conversation between two people who are taking the time to share with one another how important they are in their own lives. So thank you for joining the book report. Next time I will have a book by Mary Kerr, which I am excited to share because I just love Mary. And I have a place here locally where I go look at what they've got. And so I'm getting books that of people in the quilting industry that I have wanted to have their stuff for years. And so I kind of rescue books. So you'll be seeing a little bit of that on the book report the next time I come around. Thanks for joining me.